You remember the story of Aladdin and his magic lamp, a simple object, dull and ordinary, until friction brought out its hidden power. Now, what if I told you the lamp is a metaphor for your own mind, your brain, the true source of light, and the friction? That's your discipline, your focus, your relentless desire. You can have anything you want, but first, you have to ignite the fire yourself. People talk about the law of attraction like it's some mystical force, a wish-granting spell where all you need to do is think positively and the universe will bend to your will. But is that really how it works? Or is there something deeper, something more logical? Magic, as we know it, is simply science we don't understand yet. The things that seemed impossible centuries ago, electricity, flying, even talking to someone across the world, were once considered sorcery. But they weren't magic, they were just undiscovered truths. And maybe the same is true for the way our thoughts shape reality. Maybe it's not some supernatural trick, but a principle of the mind, a mechanism of focus, action, and persistence. Think about it. When you start believing in something, really believing, you start seeing it everywhere. It's not the universe handing you gifts. It's your brain filtering reality to match your beliefs. This is a psychological phenomenon called the Baader-Meinhof effect. The reason you suddenly see a new car everywhere right after you think about buying it. The world didn't change, but you did. So, what if attraction isn't about wishing, but about tuning your mind to what you truly want? What if luck is just preparation meeting opportunity? What if the genie was never in the lamp, but within you all along? The truth is, you can have what you want, but not by hoping, not by waiting. You have to break it down into 3 things, but let's not say it out loud. Comment if you get them along the way. Are you ready to stop waiting for the magic and start creating it? Chapter 1. What if your greatest enemy lives in your mirror? You wake up, stand in front of the glass, and critique the cracks you see. But what if the voice in your head isn't a critic? It's a saboteur. Psychology reveals that self-talk shapes reality. A 2012 study found harsh self-judgment activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. Your mind doesn't distinguish between "I failed" and "I am a failure." It absorbs the venom, etching it into your bones. Stoics called this prohairesis, the power of choice. You don't control the world, but you command your judgments. When you poison your thoughts, you hand victory to an invisible enemy, yourself. Think of your mind as a fortress. Every negative word is a breach in the walls. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Speak cruelty, and your spirit fades to ash. Speak strength, and it hardens to iron." This isn't optimism, it's physics. Energy can't vanish, it transforms. Your words are storms. They drown fields or water crops. A Stoic doesn't manifest happiness, they build it brick by brick, using language as their trowel. Replace "I can't" with "I adapt." Watch how the fortress holds. You've done this before. You called yourself lazy after skipping the gym or broken after a loss. But what if you spoke like a general, not a prisoner? Modern research shows self-compassion, NEF 2003, reduces anxiety more than self-esteem. Why? Because it's not about lying to yourself. It's about refusing to wage war on your own soil. A Stoic acknowledges flaws without surrendering to them. People say good men or a good woman are hard to find. That's because they aren't looking for you. They're busy working on their craft, building their future. They don't have time to scroll mindlessly, to chase, to entertain mediocrity. If you want to find a person of value, you must become one yourself. There is no shortcut. There is no cheat code. People at the top don't reach down. They meet others who are climbing. Psychology backs this. A 2018 study by Buss and Schmidt explains how attraction is not just about looks, but status, ambition, and self-development. Humans are wired to seek partners who add value to their lives. If you are stagnant, why would anyone moving forward stop for you? They won't, and they shouldn't. The hard truth? If you don't change, you are choosing to stay the same. There is no neutral ground. You either evolve or decay. Your habits, thoughts, and self-talk shape you. Speak like a failure, and you'll live like one. Here's the secret. Your reflection isn't the problem. The problem is the script you recite. Ancient philosophers knew this. Epictetus, born a slave, said, "We suffer not from events, but our judgments about them." Your face isn't ugly. Your story about it is. Change the narrative, and the world changes with it. Not because reality bends, but because your eyes finally focus. You stop seeing obstacles and start seeing tools. The mirror becomes a compass, not a cage. Stand taller, speak softer. When your mind hisses your weak reply, "I'm sculpting." Watch how the enemy in the mirror retreats. Watch how your hands, once busy clawing at your skin, begin building instead. This isn't just self-care, it's self-command. And the world notices when you stop bleeding. When you really want something, the universe starts to connect for you. Is it magic? No. Chapter 2. You're your own teacher. How many battles have you lost in your own mind before you even stepped into the fight? You sabotage yourself more than anyone else ever could. Not because you are weak, but because you have been conditioned to believe in your own limitations. The voice in your head, it echoes every past failure, every doubt, every fear, and you listen to it as if it speaks the truth. But here's the truth. Your mind is a tool, not a master. If you don't take control of it, it will control you. Bruce Lee once said, "Do not speak negatively about yourself, even as a joke. Your body doesn't know the difference." And psychology proves it. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon explains why, when you repeat something to yourself enough, your brain starts filtering reality to make it true. Tell yourself you're a failure, and your brain will show you all the evidence to prove it. Tell yourself you're capable, and your brain will do the same. Your mind is a weapon. Either you wield it, or it wounds you. But let's go deeper. Why do you even entertain these thoughts? It's because failure is familiar. Pain is predictable. Success is not. You've felt it. The weight that drags your bones to the earth when loss or failure strikes. But what if that weight isn't a chain? Stoics called this amor fati, love of fate. A 2004 study, Tedeschi and Calhoun, found that 70% of trauma survivors report psychological growth, stronger relationships, deeper purpose, better than the normal base level. Pain isn't a flaw in the universe, it's the chisel that carves wisdom. Your resistance to it, that's the real suffering. The obstacle isn't the enemy is believing you deserved a path without obstacles. Think of struggle as fire. A blade thrown into flames isn't punished, it's tempered. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. Your mind, like metal, requires friction to sharpen." Modern psychology calls this stress inoculation. Small doses of hardship train resilience. But Stoicism goes further. It asks you to welcome the heat, not because you enjoy burning, but because you trust the forge. Every setback is a lesson. Wearing a mask. You've cursed storms for ruining plans, but what if the storm is the plan? Research on avoidance shows that fleeing discomfort breeds anxiety, while leaning into it rewires the brain. A Stoic doesn't chase pain, but doesn't flinch when it arrives. Imagine a tree that grows sideways to avoid shadows. It becomes twisted, weak. Now imagine one that grows through cracks in stone. Its roots grow deeper, its branches find light. Which will survive the next drought? Here's the truth you've ignored. Comfort is a silent thief. It steals grit, clarity, the calluses that let you grip life's reins. Ancient philosophers trained in hardship because they knew ease rots resolve. Seneca starved himself for days to remember poverty is optional. You don't need to mimic him, but ask, what muscles have you let atrophy? Modern society medicates discomfort, but Stoics prescribe it. Pain isn't a symptom, it's the cure for complacency. So next time your chest tightens, your hands shake, don't numb it. Sit with it. Ask, what is this here to teach me? Suffering without purpose is torture. Suffering with purpose, that's mastery. The world will try to sell you band-aids for wounds that need air. Refuse. Let the scar tissue form. Let it remind you. You are not fragile. You are a mosaic of every blow you've withstood and still chose to rise. Chapter 3. What if the world isn't chaos, it's a mirror? You've blamed luck, cursed timing, raged at forces you swear conspire against you. But what if the chaos you see is just your reflection? Stoics called this sympatheia, the interconnectedness of all things. A 2010 study, Morin et al. Found that people who fixate on external chaos have weaker emotional regulation. Your perception isn't a window, it's a prism. The world fractures into whatever light you feed it. A Stoic doesn't shout at storms, they build shelters, knowing the storm was never theirs to command. Think of life as a river. You can fight the current, exhaust yourself screaming unfair, or you can swim, not to reach the shore, but to master the act of swimming. Epictetus said we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond. Modern psychology calls this locus of control. Those who fixate on what they can't change drown in learned helplessness. Those who focus on their strokes survive. The river hasn't changed. You have. Most people don't know what they want. They chase what looks good, what others have, what they've been told they should want. They run after illusions only to end up lost, frustrated, empty. It's like climbing a mountain only to realize at the top that it wasn't even the one you wanted to climb. The problem isn't effort, it's direction. You can work hard every day, but if you don't know where you're going, it's just movement, not progress. The Stoics had a simple principle: define what is within your control and focus only on that. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you don't know what you want, how can you complain about not having it?" Most people live on autopilot, reacting instead of acting, surviving instead of living. If that's you, stop. Sit in silence. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? Not what looks good on paper, not what pleases others. What do I actually want for myself without external noise? There's a psychological reason why this is so difficult. The paradox of choice, Iyengar and Lepper, 2000, shows that when people have too many options, they struggle to commit to any. We're drowning in possibilities, and instead of choosing, we hesitate, second-guess, and distract ourselves. And in doing so, we let life choose for us. But here's the truth. Indecision is also a decision. If you don't choose your path, you will be placed on one by default, and they are mostly negative. Most default paths lead nowhere. The world will pull you in every direction, but none of them are yours unless you claim them. You've wasted days dissecting others' opinions, their whispers, their glances. But what if their judgments are just echoes of your own? Research on projection, Newman et al., shows we often attribute our hidden fears to others. A Stoic strips this illusion bare. When someone calls you weak, ask, is this their truth or mine? Words only chain you if you hold out your wrists. Let them pass, like wind through a sieve. Keep what serves, discard the rest. Here's what no one admits. Your obsession with control is surrender. By clinging to outcomes, you hand power to the universe. Seneca wrote, "A ship does not sail by anchor, nor life by wish." Anchors stabilize, but they don't create motion. Modern life bombards you with anchors, likes, titles, trophies. A Stoic collects none. They sail, adjusting sails to the wind, not cursing it. The goal isn't to arrive, it's to navigate with eyes open, hands steady. So next time chaos erupts, pause, ask, what part of this is my reflection? Not to self-blame, but to reclaim agency. The colleague's cruelty, the lover's silence, they're not lessons for you. Your reaction is. Every trigger is a key to a locked door inside you. Turn it, walk through. The world will keep spinning, but you'll no longer stagger. Do you really know what you want, or are you just following the herd? Your mind will fight you, but you must fight back. The battle is constant, but so is your choice. Chapter 4. What if your deepest attachments are anchors, not wings? You cling to relationships, goals, identities, as if losing them would unravel your soul. But what if freedom lives in the spaces you're too scared to release? Stoics call this apatheia, not apathy, but clarity. A 2013 study, McCool-Linser and Shaver, found that insecure attachment fuels anxiety, while emotional autonomy correlates with resilience. Your grip doesn't protect love, it suffocates it. Like a child clutching a butterfly, you marvel at its beauty but miss the corpse in your palm. True strength isn't in holding tight, it's in knowing when to open your hand. Think of attachment as gravity. It grounds you but also pins you to the earth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say." Not morbid, liberating. A bird doesn't fear falling skies because it trusts its wings. Modern psychology warns of the backfire effect. The harder you cling to beliefs, the more reality threatens them. A Stoic doesn't abandon care, they abandon dependency. Love deeply, but let the object of love be secondary to the act itself. You've mistaken possession for purpose. The job, the partner, the praise, they're not pillars of your worth. Their weather. Seneca warned, "Wealth is the slave of the wise, the master of the fool." Research on materialism, Kasser 2002, reveals that valuing things over growth predicts chronic dissatisfaction. A Stoic hoards nothing but virtue. Imagine two trees. One absorbs sunlight, the other obsesses over keeping its leaves. Which survives winter? Detachment isn't neglect, it's prioritization. Here's the unspoken truth. Every need is a self-made chain. Ancient philosophers wore tunics, slept on floors not because they hated comfort, but to prove they didn't need it. Modern life sells you fear disguised as desire. Buy this or you'll be unloved. A Stoic sees through the lie. When you tie happiness to externals, you build a prison with open doors. Step out. The cold air shocks, but then expansion. You breathe deeper than ever. Are you living or just waiting to die? Most people don't live, they endure. They wait for something. More money, the right moment, a sign, a feeling. They tell themselves, one day I'll do this, one day I'll be happy. But that day never comes because they never act. They sit in the waiting room of life, hoping for something to change while making no effort to change themselves. Why? Because action is uncomfortable. It demands risk, effort, responsibility, and avoidance is easier. Psychology calls this motivated reasoning, when your brain justifies inaction to protect you from discomfort. You convince yourself that you're not ready, that timing isn't right, or that things will improve on their own. But they won't. Time doesn't fix things, you do. The Stoics understood this well. Seneca warned against the greatest illusion, thinking you have time. You are living as if destined to live forever, he wrote. Your own frailty never occurs to you. You waste time as if it were infinite. The truth is, every second you waste is one you'll never get back. Life is not something that will begin after you fix everything. It's happening right now. But what does it even mean to live? It doesn't mean recklessness, indulgence, or chasing pleasure. That's just another form of waiting, distracting yourself until the void returns. Real living is purposeful. It means choosing discomfort over regret. It means failing, learning, and failing again. It means doing what matters, even when it's hard. So ask yourself, what are you waiting for? Permission? Certainty? A perfect moment? Those will never come. The only thing guaranteed is that time will pass, whether you use it or not. Chapter 5. Will you choose to be free? Look around you. How much of your life is truly yours? Your thoughts, your choices, are they your own? Or have they been shaped by expectations, fears, and the invisible pressure to conform? Most people live in cages without realizing it, trapped by their past, by society, by the illusion of safety. They follow rules they never questioned, chase dreams they never chose, and fear stepping out of line. You carve plans into stone, chase permanence in a world built on tides, but what if mortality isn't a curse? It's the ink in your pen. Stoics called this memento mori, remembering death to sharpen life. A 2007 study found that reflecting on mortality increases meaning-seeking, not fear. Your time isn't short, it's focused. Like a flame, you burn brightest when aware of the wind. The sand isn't your enemy. Forgetting it's there is, think of legacy as a shadow. It lengthens only when you walk toward the light. Epictetus said, practice death daily, not to dwell in gloom, but to strip away triviality. Modern psychology calls this the existential urgency, the clarity that comes when illusions of someday crumble. A Stoic doesn't build statues, they plant forests. Their impact isn't in what's remembered, but in what grows after they're gone. What seeds are you clutching, afraid to scatter? Here's the truth etched in bone. You are not here to leave a mark. You are here to be a mark, a dent in the universe made simply by living fully. Seneca wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it, not by adding years, but by dissolving distractions." Freedom isn't given, it's taken. But taking it requires something most people avoid: responsibility. Because to be free means to own your failures as much as your victories. It means accepting that no one is coming to save you, that no one owes you anything, that every excuse, every complaint, every hesitation is a chain you put on yourself. Philosophy has said it for centuries. The Stoics believed that true freedom isn't about external conditions, but internal strength. Epictetus, once a slave, taught that no one can imprison a free mind, and modern psychology agrees. Learnt helplessness, Seligman, shows that when people believe they have no control, they stop trying, even when freedom is within reach. The mind adapts to oppression, it gets comfortable in the cage. And that's the real danger, not being trapped, but accepting it. So ask yourself, where are you still a prisoner? Is it in your fears, in the opinions of others, in a routine you hate but refuse to change? You say you want freedom, but freedom has a price. It demands sacrifice. It demands that you let go of the comfort of blaming others, that you stop waiting for perfect circumstances, that you stop wishing for an easier path, and instead become stronger. Most people will never do this. They will stay where it's familiar, where it's safe, and that's their choice. But what about you? Will you choose to be free, or will you look back one day and realize you were never truly alive?